The rust-colored dust of Proxima b swirled across the solar arrays, coating them in a fine patina that reduced their efficiency by another 2%. Lieutenant Mara Santiago watched through the reinforced viewport as the maintenance drones scuttled across the panels like metal insects, brushing away the accumulation in a never-ending battle against the planet's harsh environment. "Another 2%, she muttered, making a note on her tablet. "Commander Reyes won't be pleased." The science outpost on Proxima b represented humanity's first permanent settlement around another star, a testament to the ingenuity and determination of Earth's fledgling interstellar program. Established 5 years ago, the outpost housed 37 scientists, engineers, and security personnel, all dedicated to studying the closest exoplanet to Earth and establishing a foothold for future expansion. Mara turned from the viewport, her footsteps echoing through the utilitarian corridor as she made her way to the command center. The outpost was a collection of interconnected domes and tunnels, designed to withstand Proxima's extreme temperature fluctuations and occasional dust storms. Despite its functional design, the crew had done their best to make it feel like home, with potted plants from Earth, holographic murals of distant landscapes, and communal spaces where they gathered to share meals and stories. Commander Elena Reyes was hunched over the central console when Mara entered, her dark hair streaked with premature gray, her eyes fixed on a series of readings that scrolled across the screen. "Lieutenant," she acknowledged without looking up. "I assume you're here to tell me about the solar efficiency drop?" "Yes, Commander. The drones are clearing the arrays now, but the dust storms have been more frequent this season." Commander Reyes sighed, finally looking up. A veteran of the European Space Agency, before joining Earth's interstellar initiative, she carried herself with the quiet authority of someone who had faced the void and returned stronger. "We'll need to schedule a manned maintenance excursion. The drones can only do so much." She gestured to a seat beside her. "Join me. I was just reviewing the latest transmissions from Earth." Mara sat, noting the tension in Reyes's shoulders. "Good news or bad?" "Mixed. The United Earth Council has approved additional funding for our research here, but they're still hesitant about expanding our defensive capabilities." This was an ongoing point of contention. The outpost's defenses consisted of a modest shield generator, a handful of point defense lasers, and a small security team led by Sergeant Amir Patel. Earth's interstellar policy emphasized peaceful exploration and scientific discovery, a reflection of the optimism that had emerged after centuries of conflict on the home planet. But being 25 trillion miles from home made many at the outpost nervous about their vulnerability. "The Council still believes in the empty galaxy hypothesis?" Mara asked, referring to the prevailing theory that humanity might be alone in this region of space. "They prefer to call it cautious optimism," Reyes replied with a wry smile. 4 years of scanning and no signs of technological civilizations has reinforced their view. The command center door hissed open, admitting Dr. Priya Lin, the outpost's lead xenobiologist. Her lab coat was rumpled, suggesting she'd been working through the night again, and her eyes held the excited gleam that indicated a new discovery. "Commander, Lieutenant," she greeted them. "You need to see this." She approached the console and transferred data from her tablet. A 3-dimensional hologram materialized above the display, showing a complex molecular structure. "We found this compound in the samples from the northern basin," Dr. Lin explained, her fingers manipulating the hologram to highlight specific elements. "It's not naturally occurring. At least, it shouldn't be." Commander Reyes frowned. "You're suggesting artificial origin?" "I'm suggesting we might not be as alone as we thought." The implication hung in the air, electric with possibility. Mara was about to respond when an alert chimed from the communication station. Officer Javier Vega swiveled in his chair, his expression shifting from curiosity to concern. "Commander," he called, his voice tight. "Long-range sensors have detected multiple objects approaching from the outer system." Asteroids? Reyes asked, already moving toward his station. Negative. They're under power deceleration. Current count is 27 distinct objects, varying in size from shuttle class to what appears to be capital ship dimensions. Silence fell over the command center as the implications sank in. Mara felt her pulse quicken, a mixture of excitement and apprehension flooding her system. "Alert status!" Commander Reyes ordered, her voice steady despite the momentous nature of her words. "Contact Earth immediately. It seems the galaxy isn't so empty after all." The command center erupted into controlled chaos as crew members rushed to their stations. Sergeant Patel arrived moments later, his compact frame belying the strength and experience he brought as the Outpost's security chief. A veteran of the Pan-Asian peacekeeping force on Earth, Patel had seen his share of conflict before volunteering for this distant posting. "Status report," he demanded, joining Reyes at the main display. 27 unknown vessels on approach, she replied. Currently at 8 astronomical units and decelerating. At present speed, they'll reach our orbit in approximately 72 hours. Patel's expression remained impassive, but Mara noticed his hand tighten on the holster of his sidearm. "Defensive options?" "Limited," Reyes admitted. "We've initiated contact protocols and notified Earth, but even at quantum entanglement speeds, we're on our own for now." The approaching fleet appeared on the main screen as a constellation of bright points, steadily growing larger against the backdrop of space. The command center fell silent as they watched, each person grappling with the reality that humanity's first contact with an alien civilization would happen here, at this remote outpost on the edge of explored space. "They're in formation," Mara observed, studying the tactical display. "That suggests organization, hierarchy, and military doctrine," Patel added grimly. Over the next 48 hours, the outpost prepared as best it could for the approaching fleet. Security protocols were reviewed. Non-essential systems were powered down to divert energy to shields, and every crew member received a crash course in first contact procedures. Earth had responded with promises of reinforcements, but everyone knew the reality. Help was 4 years away at the fastest possible speeds. They were on their own. Mara spent most of this time in the engineering bay, working with Dr. Lin on modifications to the outpost's limited defensive systems. Her specialty was weapons engineering, though she had never expected to put those skills to use so far from home. The prototype gravitational pulse rifle she had been developing, originally intended for mining operations, now took on new significance. "The theory is sound," she explained to Dr. Lin as they calibrated the device. "A focused gravitational pulse could disrupt shield harmonics, maybe even propulsion systems, without causing catastrophic damage." "Non-lethal but effective," Dr. Lin nodded, adjusting the power coupling. "Exactly what we need for a potentially tense first contact." Mara appreciated the scientist's optimism, but couldn't shake her unease. The approaching fleet's formation and speed spoke of purpose, not exploration. When she finally took a break to rest, she found herself standing at the viewport again, gazing up at Proxima's rusty sky. Somewhere up there, an unknown force approached, their intentions a mystery that would soon reveal itself. The waiting ended more abruptly than anyone anticipated. "Multiple spatial distortions detected," Officer Vega's voice cut through the command center. "They're accelerating." Commander Reyes rushed to the main console. "Time to arrival?" "At current speed, less than 1 hour." The revelation sent ripples of tension through the outpost. Whatever diplomatic protocols Earth had established for first contact, they hadn't accounted for such an aggressive approach. "All personnel to emergency stations," Reyes ordered. "Sergeant Patel, deploy security teams. Lieutenant Mara, prepare your prototype. Dr. Lin, secure your research and report to the medical bay." As they dispersed to their assignments, Mara caught a glimpse of the tactical display. The approaching fleet had reorganized, with smaller vessels now flanking what appeared to be a massive flagship. Their formation was unmistakably military, designed to project power and control approach vectors. In the armory, Mara found Sergeant Patel distributing weapons to his security team. His movements were precise, efficient, the result of years of training and experience. "Lieutenant," he acknowledged, handing her a standard-issue pistol to complement her prototype rifle. "Let's hope we don't need these." "Hope for peace. Prepare for war," she suggested, checking the weapon's charge. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "Something like that." He lowered his voice. "These people, whoever they are, traveled light years to get here. They didn't come all this way just to say hello." Mara nodded, understanding the weight of his words. "Then we make sure they know we're not an easy target." The first visual contact came 53 minutes later. The flagship of the alien Armada decelerated into a stable orbit around Proxima b, its massive form blotting out a section of the sky. The vessel defied human design principles, with sweeping, organic curves and pulsing energy conduits that suggested a biology as much as a technology. Smaller craft, sleek, predatory shapes that reminded Mara of Earth's ancient manta rays, maintained a defensive perimeter around the larger ship. "They're scanning us," Officer Vega reported from the communication station. "Multiple frequencies, deep penetration. They're mapping every inch of the outpost." Commander Reyes stood at the center of the command hub, her posture rigid but composed. "Open a channel. Standard greeting package, all frequencies." For several tense minutes, the outpost broadcast humanity's carefully crafted first contact message, a combination of mathematical sequences, simple language constructs, and cultural information designed to establish peaceful intent. The response, when it came, was not what anyone had anticipated. A holographic projection materialized in the center of the command hub, revealing a being unlike anything in Earth's xenobiological predictions. The alien stood nearly 7 feet tall, with an exoskeleton that gleamed like polished obsidian. Multiple upper limbs suggested an evolutionary path that favored manipulation and tool use, while its head featured compound eyes that shifted with iridescent colors. "We are the Zalaxian Imperium," the being announced in perfect, unaccented English, shocking everyone present. "This system is now under our protection. Your presence here is unauthorized." Commander Reyes stepped forward, maintaining admirable composure. "I am Commander Elena Reyes of the Earth Interstellar Initiative. We are a scientific outpost conducting peaceful research. We welcome dialogue and cultural exchange." The Zalaxian commander, for that was clearly its role, made a gesture that might have been dismissive. "Your species is unknown to us. Your technology is primitive. Your claim to this system is invalid." "We make no claim beyond our research mission," Reyes countered. "Proxima Centauri is the closest star to our home system. Our presence here is a natural extension of our exploration efforts." "Irrelevant," the alien replied. "The Proxima system contains resources vital to the Imperium. You will evacuate this facility within 1 planetary rotation. Failure to comply will result in your removal." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Mara exchanged glances with Sergeant Patel, both recognizing the unmistakable language of ultimatum. "Well," Commander Reyes said after a moment, her voice steady despite the situation, "I believe Earth's first contact protocols just became obsolete." An emergency council was convened immediately, with department heads gathering in the secure conference room. The atmosphere was tense but focused, everyone aware that their decisions in the next few hours could shape humanity's first interstellar relationship, for better or worse. "Evacuation is not an option," Commander Reyes stated firmly. "Even if we wanted to comply, our interstellar shuttle can only accommodate 12 people, and the journey back to Earth would take years." "Could we negotiate for time?" Dr. Lin suggested. "Request assistance from the Zalaxians to facilitate our departure?" Sergeant Patel shook his head. "That transmission wasn't an opening for negotiation. It was a statement of intent." He pulled up a tactical display, showing the positions of the Zalaxian vessels. They've surrounded the outpost. Multiple weapon signatures active. They're preparing for our resistance. Or testing our resolve, Mara added. If they wanted to destroy us outright, they could have done so already. Commander Reyes considered this. Lieutenant, what's the status of your prototype weapon? Operational, but untested against alien technology. In theory, it could disrupt their shields or propulsion systems without causing catastrophic damage. A demonstration of capability without escalating to lethal force. Reyes nodded. It might buy us time to establish meaningful communication. The decision was made. They would stand their ground, but with a measured response designed to demonstrate both resolve and restraint. As the council dispersed to prepare, Mara found herself walking alongside Sergeant Patel. "You don't think this will work," she observed. He glanced at her, his expression grim. "I've seen this pattern before, back on Earth. The powerful rarely negotiate with those they perceive as weak." He checked his weapon with practiced efficiency. "But I've also seen what happens when the supposedly weak refuse to be victims." The Zalaxian deadline arrived with the setting of Proxima's distant red sun. The alien fleet maintained its orbital positions, weapons charged but inactive. In the command center, tension had coalesced into a strange calm, the focus of people who had accepted the gravity of their situation and were determined to face it with dignity. "Incoming transmission," Officer Vega announced. The holographic image of the Zalaxian commander appeared once more, its compound eyes shifting through patterns of color that might have indicated emotion. "Your evacuation period has expired," it stated. "You have chosen defiance." Commander Reyes stepped forward. "We have chosen dialogue. Our outpost poses no threat to your people. We seek only to learn and understand." "Understanding is irrelevant. Compliance is mandatory." The alien made a gesture with one of its upper limbs. "Prepare for removal." The transmission cut off, and seconds later, the outpost shuddered as the first energy blast struck the shields. "Shield integrity at 87%, reported the defensive systems operator. "Multiple targeting locks detected." Commander Reyes's voice remained steady as she issued orders. "Defensive pattern alpha, point defense systems online. Lieutenant Mara, prepare your prototype for deployment." The initial exchange was brief, but intense. The Zalaxian fighters launched coordinated strikes against the outpost's shield generators, while the outpost's limited point defense lasers struggled to track the fast-moving alien craft. Mara rushed to the primary defense station, where her gravitational pulse rifle had been integrated into the outpost's systems. "Target the lead fighter," she instructed the weapons operator. "Narrow beam, 30% power. Let's see what this can do." The prototype hummed to life, generating a localized distortion in spacetime that propagated outward in a tightly focused beam. When it struck the Zalaxian fighter, the effect was immediate and dramatic. The craft's shields flickered and failed, and its propulsion system stuttered, sending it into an uncontrolled spin away from the outpost. "Direct hit," the operator confirmed. "Target disabled but intact." A moment of stunned silence fell over the command center, quickly replaced by cautious optimism. The Zalaxian fleet paused its attack, seemingly reassessing the situation. "They didn't expect resistance," Sergeant Patel observed, a note of grim satisfaction in his voice. "Especially not effective resistance." Commander Reyes seized the moment. "Open a channel to the flagship." When the Zalaxian commander appeared this time, its posture had changed subtly. A straightening of its torso, a different arrangement of limbs that suggested increased attention. "Your technology exceeds our initial assessment," it stated. "Interesting." "We are not defenseless," Reyes replied, "but we would prefer peaceful coexistence to conflict. There is room enough in this system for both our peoples." The alien's compound eyes shifted through a series of color patterns. "Coexistence is not the Zalaxian way. Supremacy is our mandate." It made a gesture that might have been contemplative. However, your species merits further study before elimination. We will withdraw temporarily to assess. The transmission ended, and the Zalaxian fleet began to pull back, maintaining formation but increasing distance from the outpost. "They're not leaving," Sergeant Patel warned. "They're regrouping." "Then we use this time to prepare," Commander Reyes decided. "Lieutenant Mara, Dr. Lin, I need options." The respite lasted less than 12 hours. During that time, the outpost transformed into a hive of activity as every available crew member worked to reinforce defenses and adapt the gravitational pulse technology for broader application. Mara worked alongside Dr. Lin, their combined expertise pushing the prototype beyond its original specifications. "If we reconfigure the relay stations," Mara suggested, pointing to the network of communication nodes spread across the outpost's exterior, "we could create a wider field effect." Dr. Lin nodded, her fingers dancing across the simulation models. "Turning a point weapon into an area denial system. Brilliant." She frowned at the power requirements. "But we'd need to divert energy from life support to generate sufficient field strength." "Not if we tap into the geothermal tap," Mara countered. "It's risky, but—" She was interrupted by the blare of alarm klaxons. The Zalaxians had returned, and this time, they weren't alone. "Multiple new contacts detected," Officer Vega called out. "They've brought reinforcements." The tactical display confirmed his assessment. Where before, there had been dozens of Zalaxian vessels. Now, there were hundreds, arranged in attack formations that surrounded the outpost from all angles. The flagship had been joined by 3 additional capital ships, each bristling with weapons that dwarfed anything in Earth's arsenal. "They're deploying ground forces," Sergeant Patel reported, monitoring the perimeter sensors. "Dropships descending to the surface." Commander Reyes's expression hardened. "They're done testing us. This is the real assault." She activated the outpost-wide communication system. "All personnel, battle stations. This is not a drill." The first wave of the attack came from orbit, a coordinated barrage from multiple vessels designed to overwhelm the outpost's shields through sheer volume of fire. The point defense systems engaged automatically, targeting the incoming energy projectiles with reasonable success. But the sheer number of attackers meant some got through. "Shield integrity dropping," the defensive systems operator reported. 70%, 65%. Mara worked frantically at her station, adjusting the gravitational pulse rifle to target the largest concentration of enemy fighters. "Firing solution ready!" "Execute," Reyes ordered. The prototype weapon discharged, sending a ripple through spacetime that engulfed a squadron of Zalaxian fighters. Their formations dissolved as propulsion and weapon systems failed, sending several craft careening into one another. But for every fighter disabled, 3 more took its place. "We can't maintain this exchange," Sergeant Patel warned. "Our energy reserves won't last." As if to punctuate his assessment, a massive impact rocked the outpost, sending personnel stumbling. Emergency lighting flashed as primary systems temporarily failed. "Direct hit on Dome 3, came the report. "Breach contained, but structural integrity compromised." Commander Reyes's voice cut through the chaos. "Fall back to secondary positions. Sergeant Patel, deploy security teams to defend the central hub. Lieutenant Mara, Dr. Lin, implement your relay station plan. Now." As they rushed to execute the orders, another blast struck the outpost. This one more devastating than the first. Mara was thrown against a bulkhead, her vision momentarily blurring from the impact. When she regained her focus, she saw Sergeant Patel down, a section of collapsed ceiling pinning his lower body. "Sergeant!" she called, rushing to his side. Blood stained his uniform where a metal shard had penetrated his thigh. "I'm fine," he grimaced, though his pallor suggested otherwise. "The relay stations—" "Dr. Lin is handling it," Mara assured him, applying a pressure bandage from the emergency kit on the wall. We need to get you to medical. No time, he insisted, gripping her arm with surprising strength. Listen to me. These aliens, they're fighting conventionally, predictably. That's our advantage. Despite the chaos around them, Mara understood his meaning. The Zalaxians, for all their technological superiority, were following standard military doctrine. Their attacks were coordinated, efficient, and therefore potentially predictable. Unconventional response, she nodded. That's what we need. With Sergeant Patel stabilized and in the care of medical personnel, Mara rejoined Dr. Lin at the Central Engineering Hub. The scientist was coordinating the reconfiguration of the relay stations, her usual composed demeanor replaced by intense focus. Status? Mara asked, joining her at the main console. 5 stations reconfigured. 2 more in progress, Dr. Lin reported. But the Zalaxians have landed troops near Station 8. We can't access it. Mara studied the tactical display. The Zalaxian ground forces were advancing methodically toward the outpost, using the rugged terrain for cover. Without Station 8, the relay network would have a critical gap in coverage. I'll go, she decided. I can reconfigure it manually. That's a suicide mission, Dr. Lin protested. The area is crawling with Zalaxian troops. Then I'll crawl better than they do, Mara replied, already gathering the necessary equipment. Keep working on the others. If I'm not back in 30 minutes, activate the network anyway. Commander Reyes intercepted her as she prepared to leave the relative safety of the central hub. Lieutenant, explain yourself. Mara outlined her plan quickly, emphasizing the critical nature of Station 8 to the network's effectiveness. Reyes listened, her expression grave but thoughtful. The risk is significant, she noted when Mara finished. The alternative is worse, Mara countered. Without a complete network, the gravitational pulse won't disrupt enough of their forces to matter. After a moment's consideration, Reyes nodded. Approved. But take this. She handed Mara a small device. Quantum entanglement communicator. Limited range, but secure. Keep us informed of your progress. The journey to Relay Station 8 was every bit as hazardous as Dr. Lin had warned. Mara navigated the dusty plains of Proxima B, using the Outpost service tunnels as far as they extended. Then proceeded on foot, using the frequent dust devils and rocky outcroppings for cover. Her environmental suit protected her from the planet's thin, toxic atmosphere, but it also limited her mobility and made stealth more challenging. From her vantage point behind a ridge, she observed the Zalaxian ground forces for the first time up close. They moved with insectoid precision, their exoskeletons gleaming in Proxima's ruddy light. Each carried weapons that pulsed with the same organic energy she had observed in their ships. But most concerning was their method of deployment. They seemed to phase in and out of visibility, suggesting some form of cloaking technology. Adaptive camouflage, she murmured, adjusting her visor's spectrum analysis. Bending light around their bodies. She reported her observations back to the outpost, then continued her approach to Station 8. The relay station was a modest structure, little more than a hardened transmitter array with a small maintenance shelter attached. Currently, it was surrounded by a patrol of 6 Zalaxian soldiers, their attention focused on the outpost in the distance, rather than the seemingly insignificant structure beside them. Mara weighed her options. A direct approach was impossible. Creating a diversion might draw more attention than it diverted. Then, she noticed something. The Zalaxians were avoiding the areas where Proxima's dust storms were most active, their movements suggesting discomfort or difficulty in the swirling particulates. Sensitivity to the dust, she realized. Or maybe interference with their camouflage systems. She activated her suit's atmospheric sampler, collecting a small quantity of the planet's fine dust. A quick analysis confirmed her suspicion. The dust contained paramagnetic particles that might disrupt the Zalaxian cloaking field. With careful movements, she assembled a makeshift dispersal device from her equipment, loading it with the collected dust. The improvised dust bomb worked better than she had anticipated. When triggered remotely, it created a swirling cloud that engulfed the Zalaxian patrol. Their camouflage systems flickered and failed, leaving them visible and disoriented. Mara seized the opportunity, sprinting for the relay station while the aliens struggled to regroup. Inside the maintenance shelter, she worked quickly to reconfigure the relay's transmission protocols. The process was delicate. One wrong connection could render the entire network useless, but her hands remained steady despite the urgency. Outside, she could hear the Zalaxians recovering from the disruption, their clicking communication growing more organized. "Almost there," she muttered, making the final adjustments. The relay's status indicator shifted from amber to green, just as the shelter's door began to vibrate under impact. "Station 8 reconfigured," she reported through the quantum communicator. "But I've got company." Commander Reyes's voice came through with minimal distortion. "Can you make it back?" Mara glanced at the door, which was beginning to buckle under the Zalaxian assault. "Negative. But the relay is online. Tell Dr. Lin to activate the network." "Understood. And Lieutenant, good luck." As the communication ended, Mara positioned herself behind what little cover the maintenance shelter offered. The prototype gravitational pulse rifle, a more portable version of the Outpost's main weapon, hummed in her hands as she charged it. The door gave way with a screech of tortured metal, and the first Zalaxian warrior entered, its weapon raised. Mara fired. The effect was instantaneous. The gravitational pulse engulfed the alien, disrupting not only its weapon, but also its very movement. It froze in place, caught in a localized time dilation effect that Mara hadn't anticipated. A second warrior met the same fate as it attempted to enter, creating an effective barrier of suspended aliens in the doorway. "That's new," Mara remarked, studying the unexpected phenomenon. The effect wouldn't last long. The power cell in her portable rifle couldn't sustain such an energy-intensive field, but it gave her a moment to plan her next move. That moment was interrupted by a tremendous tremor that shook the ground beneath her feet. Through the doorway, past the frozen Zalaxians, she saw the sky light up with energy discharges as the Outpost's relay network activated. The gravitational pulse, amplified and distributed through all 8 stations, created a dome-like field that engulfed a significant portion of the Zalaxian fleet. Ships tumbled from their formations, weapon systems offline, propulsion failing. The synchronization was more effective than they had dared hope, creating cascade failures throughout the alien armada. Even the massive capital ships weren't immune, their shields flickering as the gravitational distortions played havoc with their energy distribution systems. Mara allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before returning to her immediate predicament. The time dilation effect was already weakening, the frozen Zalaxians beginning to move in slow motion. She needed an exit strategy, and quickly. The maintenance shelter had an emergency escape hatch, a small opening in the roof designed for rapid evacuation in case of environmental hazards. Mara climbed onto the relay equipment, pushed the hatch open, and hauled herself onto the roof, just as the Zalaxians below regained full mobility. From her elevated position, she had a clear view of the battlefield. The outpost, though damaged, still stood, its remaining defenses engaging the disorganized Zalaxian forces. The relay network's effect was diminishing as the aliens adapted, but it had bought precious time and significantly reduced the assault's coordination. What she hadn't anticipated was the Zalaxian response to this setback. The flagship, apparently recognizing the source of the disruption, had redirected its main weapons toward the relay stations. One by one, they were being systematically destroyed, targeted with precision that spoke of a rapidly evolving tactical assessment. "They're learning," she realized, watching as Station 3 erupted in a ball of flame. "Adapting to our countermeasures." She reported this development to the outpost as she made her way across the rocky terrain, avoiding Zalaxian patrols that were now moving with increased caution, aware of the dust's effect on their systems. The response she received was grim. "The gravitational pulse bought us time," Commander Reyes informed her. "But they're launching a final assault. Orbital bombardment combined with ground forces. Our shields won't withstand it." "What about the prototype's effect on their troops?" Mara asked. "The time dilation?" "Dr. Lin is analyzing the data now. It might be our last option." Mara considered her position. She was outside the outpost's perimeter, behind enemy lines, with a prototype weapon that had demonstrated an unexpected capability. Perhaps that position wasn't a liability, but an advantage. "Commander," she said, "I'm detecting unusual energy readings from a command structure the Zalaxians have established near my position. It appears to be coordinating their ground forces. Can you provide coordinates?" "Better than that," Mara replied, formulating a plan. "I think I can access it." The Zalaxian command post was a temporary structure, erected on a plateau overlooking the outpost. Unlike the organic, flowing designs of their ships, this was functional and utilitarian, a series of interconnected modules surrounding a central communications array. Guards patrolled the perimeter, their movements precise but predictable. Mara observed them for nearly an hour, identifying patterns in their rotations and gaps in their surveillance. The dust storm that had been brewing to the east provided both cover and disruption to their systems, allowing her to approach closer than would otherwise have been possible. "They're preparing for something big," she reported, watching as Zalaxian officers, distinguished by elaborate markings on their exoskeletons, gathered around what appeared to be a holographic display. Multiple dropships arriving, and... Wait. She adjusted her visor's magnification. "They're deploying some kind of drone." The devices being unloaded from the latest dropship were unlike anything she had seen before. Roughly spherical, they pulsed with energy that distorted the air around them. Each was approximately 2 meters in diameter, with multiple appendages folded against their bodies like sleeping insects. "Scanning," she murmured, directing her suit's sensors toward the nearest drone. The results were alarming. Energy readings off the scale? Whatever these are, they're not conventional weapons. Commander Reyes's response was immediate. "Dr. Lin has analyzed the orbital data, those match signatures consistent with terraforming technology, or planet-killer weapons, depending on application." The implication was clear. The Zalaxians weren't merely trying to remove the outpost. They were preparing to reshape Proxima b itself, regardless of the consequences for its fragile ecosystem. "I need to get closer," Mara decided. "If I can disrupt their command structure—" "Too risky," Reyes countered. "We're preparing a final defensive stand here. Return if you can." Mara considered the order, weighing it against what she was witnessing. The Zalaxian preparations suggested an overwhelming force about to be unleashed. A defensive stand, no matter how determined, would be futile against such firepower. "With respect, Commander," she replied, "I think I'm where I need to be." Using the intensifying dust storm as cover, Mara approached the Zalaxian command post from its western edge, where the guard presence was thinnest. Her environmental suit, already coated with Proxima's rusty dust, provided excellent camouflage against the rocky terrain. The gravitational pulse rifle, though depleted from its earlier use, still had enough charge for 1, maybe 2 more deployments. The perimeter barrier was her first obstacle, an energy field that hummed with the same organic quality as Zalaxian technology. Rather than attempting to breach it directly, Mara observed the entry protocols, waiting until a supply drone passed through, creating a momentary fluctuation in the field, timing her movement precisely. She slipped through in the drone's wake, the barrier recognizing her presence as part of the authorized entry. Inside the compound, she moved from shadow to shadow, using the modular structures for cover. The activity level was high, with Zalaxian officers and technicians moving purposefully between stations. The central communications array drew her attention, a towering spire of interlocking technology that pulsed with energy. If she could access that, she might be able to disrupt the entire operation. A pair of guards approached, forcing Mara to duck behind a storage container. Their clicking communication was incomprehensible, but their body language suggested routine rather than alarm. As they passed, she caught sight of something unexpected. One carried a control device similar to those being used to program the spherical drones. "Command override," she whispered, a plan forming. If the drones were centrally controlled, rather than autonomous, there might be a vulnerability she could exploit. With renewed purpose, Mara made her way toward the area where the drones were being prepared. Nearly 24 of the devices were arranged in formation, technicians moving among them, making final adjustments. At the center of this activity was what appeared to be a master control station, a complex interface where a senior Zalaxian officer oversaw the operation. Mara positioned herself behind a power conduit, close enough to observe but hidden from immediate sight. The drones were being activated sequentially, each humming to life with a pulse of energy that made the air shimmer. As they activated, their appendages unfurled, revealing sophisticated sensor arrays and what could only be described as weapon emplacements. The control station's interface was alien, but the principles of command and control were universal. Mara observed the activation sequence, noting the pattern of interactions between the master control and individual drones. There was a hierarchy, a chain of command that flowed from the central communications array to the control station to the drones themselves. A network, she realized. Just like our relay stations. And networks had vulnerabilities. The gravitational pulse rifle was designed to disrupt energy fields and propulsion systems. But in its effect on the Zalaxian troops, it had demonstrated an unexpected capability: time dilation, a manipulation of space-time itself. If directed at the control station at the precise moment of command transmission, Mara checked her rifle's charge. 1 shot remaining, at best. The timing would have to be perfect. She waited, watching as the final preparations were made. The senior officer made a gesture that seemed to signify readiness, and the drones began to rise from their positions, hovering in perfect formation. The attack was imminent. Mara aimed at the control station, focusing on the power distribution node where energy fluctuations were most visible. The rifle's targeting system locked on, compensating for distance and environmental factors. She took a deep breath, steadied her hands, and waited for the critical moment, the command transmission that would unleash the drones against the outpost. It came with a surge of energy from the communications array, a pulse that traveled visibly through the system toward the control station. In that instant, Mara fired. The gravitational pulse struck the control station precisely as the command was being transmitted to the drones. The effect was instantaneous and catastrophic. The space-time distortion created a feedback loop in the Zalaxian network, amplifying the command signal beyond its intended parameters. The control station erupted in a cascade of energy discharges, its alien technology unable to compensate for the sudden disruption. The drones, receiving corrupted command data, responded in ways their creators had never intended. Some launched immediately upward, their weapons firing randomly into space. Others spun in place, appendages thrashing in confusion. But most critical was the effect on the lead drone, the apparent command unit of the formation. It interpreted the corrupted signal as a self-destruct command, initiating a catastrophic energy release that engulfed the nearby drones in a chain reaction. The resulting explosion rocked the command post, sending Zalaxian personnel scrambling for cover. The shockwave toppled structures and disrupted the perimeter barrier, creating chaos throughout the compound. In orbit, the Zalaxian fleet responded to the disaster, ships breaking formation to avoid debris from the exploding drones that had reached escape velocity. Mara, thrown to the ground by the blast, took advantage of the confusion to retreat. Her rifle, drained of power, was now little more than dead weight, but it had served its purpose. As she made her way back toward the outpost, she witnessed the aftermath of her action spreading across the battlefield. The Zalaxian assault had been critically disrupted. Without the planet-killer drones, and with their command structure in disarray, their coordinated attack had devolved into isolated skirmishes. The outpost's remaining defenses, though strained, were holding against this diminished threat. Lieutenant Mara to Outpost. She transmitted through the quantum communicator. Enemy command post neutralized. Drone weapons destroyed. Requesting extraction. Commander Reyes's response came through with unmistakable relief. Confirmed, Lieutenant. Security team en route to your coordinates. There was a pause. What exactly did you do out there? Mara looked back at the smoking ruins of the Zalaxian command post, where secondary explosions continued to erupt as damaged technology failed catastrophically. Applied a little chaos theory. Commander, even the most advanced systems have a breaking point. The battle for Proxima B didn't end with a single decisive blow, but rather a series of retreats and regroupings as the Zalaxian forces reassessed their situation. What had begun as an overwhelming assault gradually transformed into a stalemate, with neither side able to gain a significant advantage. 3 days after the destruction of the command post, the Zalaxian flagship initiated contact once more. The holographic image of the alien commander appeared in the outpost's command center, its posture noticeably different from previous communications, less rigid, more considered. Your resistance exceeds expectations, it stated, compound eyes shifting through patterns that suggested complex emotion. The cost of subduing your outpost has become disproportionate. Commander Reyes, despite the exhaustion evident in her features, maintained her diplomatic composure. We did not seek this conflict. We still believe peaceful coexistence is possible. The Zalaxian Imperium does not coexist, the alien replied. We conquer or we withdraw. In this instance, withdrawal is the logical choice. Its upper limbs made a gesture that might have indicated reluctant respect. Your species warrants further study before future engagement. Or perhaps, Reyes suggested, future cooperation instead of engagement. The Zalaxian commander considered this. An unconventional proposal. It will be considered. Without further elaboration, the transmission ended. Within hours, the Zalaxian fleet began to disengage, maintaining defensive formations, but clearly preparing to depart the system. The ground forces were retrieved by dropships, leaving behind damaged equipment and the scattered remains of their temporary structures. In the outpost's medical bay, Mara visited Sergeant Patel, who was recovering from surgery to repair his leg injury. Despite the painkillers, his mind remained sharp, his tactical assessment as incisive as ever. They're not giving up, he noted when Mara described the Zalaxian withdrawal. They're reassessing, learning. So are we, she replied. Dr. Lin has already isolated several principles of their technology from the debris they left behind, and Earth has been notified. Reinforcements are being prepared. Patel nodded, a hint of his usual wry smile returning. Your chaos theory worked better than anyone could have predicted. Sometimes the unexpected is the most effective weapon, Mara agreed. They came expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they found that humans don't surrender easily. The days following the Zalaxian departure were filled with repair work and reinforcement of the outpost's defenses. The damage had been extensive. 2 habitat domes required complete reconstruction, and the power systems operated at reduced capacity until replacement components could be fabricated. But the mood among the crew was one of cautious optimism, tempered by the knowledge that they had faced their first interstellar threat and survived. 2 weeks after the battle, long-range sensors detected a new signal approaching from the direction of Earth. Commander Reyes called Mara to the command center as the signal clarified. Quantum entanglement communication, Reyes explained. indicating the incoming transmission. Earth responded to our distress call faster than expected. The message, when decoded, brought surprising news. Earth had mobilized not just military reinforcements, but also a diplomatic envoy, dispatched at maximum speed to reach Proxima b. More significantly, the message revealed that Earth's quantum telescopes had observed the conflict from afar, and recordings of humanity's successful defense had been broadcast across the fledgling interstellar network. "We're famous," Officer Vega remarked, a hint of wonder in his voice. The first humans to encounter and survive alien contact. Mara found the attention uncomfortable, particularly when the message specified that her actions at the Zalaxian command post had been recorded and were being studied by Earth's defense strategists. She had never sought recognition, only the safety of her colleagues and the outpost they had built together. 1 month after the battle, as the outpost's reconstruction neared completion, long-range sensors detected another approaching signal, this one from beyond the Proxima system, moving at speeds that suggested advanced propulsion technology. "Zalaxians," Sergeant Patel asked, now recovered enough to resume limited duties. "Negative," Officer Vega replied, studying the signal characteristics. "Different energy signature entirely, and they're broadcasting on multiple frequencies. An open communication." The message, when received, was unexpected. It came not from Earth or the Zalaxians, but from a third species, one that identified itself as the Ardrani Confederation, a coalition of spacefaring civilizations from a neighboring sector. They had observed the conflict between humans and Zalaxians with great interest, particularly the manner in which a significantly less advanced species had successfully defended itself against a known aggressor. "They're sending representatives," Commander Reyes announced after reviewing the complete message. "Apparently, our little standoff has attracted attention beyond our solar neighborhood." Dr. Lin, who had been analyzing the data accompanying the message, looked up with an expression of wonder. "According to this, the Zalaxian Imperium has been expanding unchecked for centuries. No one expected them to be repelled by a species as new to interstellar travel as humanity. Sometimes being underestimated is an advantage," Mara observed. The arrival of the Ardrani delegation coincided with that of Earth's diplomatic envoy, transforming the once isolated outpost into an impromptu interstellar conference. The Ardrani, physically unlike either humans or Zalaxians, brought with them technological gifts and offers of alliance against future Zalaxian aggression. More surprising was the arrival, 3 days later, of a single Zalaxian vessel, not a warship, but a diplomatic craft bearing representatives authorized to discuss terms of non-aggression. The Zalaxian Imperium, it seemed, had reassessed humanity's potential value as a trading partner rather than a conquered subject. In the newly constructed conference dome, representatives from Earth, Ardrani, and the Zalaxian Imperium gathered for the first formal interstellar diplomatic summit in human history. Commander Reyes, as the senior Earth representative present, led the human delegation, with Mara reluctantly accepting a position as security advisor. "I'm an engineer, not a diplomat," she had protested when the assignment was made. "You're the one who demonstrated humanity's ingenuity and resolve," Reyes had countered. "Your presence reminds all parties what we're capable of when pushed." The negotiations were complex, with translation systems struggling to convey nuances across 3 fundamentally different linguistic and cultural frameworks. The Zalaxians, true to their nature, approached the talks as a form of strategic positioning rather than genuine cooperation. The Ardrani, more accustomed to interspecies dialogue, served as mediators when communication faltered. After 7 days of intensive discussion, the first draft of what would become known as the Proxima Accords was prepared. It established recognition of Earth's claim to research and development rights within the Proxima system, acknowledged the Zalaxian Imperium's prior claim to certain resource-rich asteroids in the outer system, and created a framework for future dispute resolution under Ardrani observation. As the delegates prepared to depart, the Zalaxian representative approached Mara in the Outpost's arboretum, a small sanctuary of earth plants that had survived the battle relatively unscathed. "Your tactic at our command post," the alien began without preamble, its translator rendering its clicks and whistles into stilted English. "Unorthodox, effective. How did you conceive it?" Mara considered her response carefully. "I observed a vulnerability and exploited it. Your systems were too rigidly hierarchical. One disruption cascaded through the entire network." The Zalaxian's compound eyes shifted through patterns of blue and green. "Zalaxian military doctrine emphasizes order, control, predictability. Your approach was chaotic." "Sometimes chaos is the most effective response to excessive order," Mara replied. "It's a principle that appears throughout nature, even on Earth." "Your species bears further study," the Zalaxian concluded, making a gesture that its cultural briefing had indicated signified respect between equals. "Future encounters may be instructive." As the various delegations departed and the outpost returned to its primary scientific mission, Mara found herself standing once again at the viewport where she had first noticed the dust accumulating on the solar arrays. The view was different now. Repair drones worked on the reconstructed habitat domes. A small Ardrani technical team assisted with upgrades to the defensive systems. And in orbit, an Earth defense satellite took up position as the first permanent military presence in the system. Commander Reyes joined her, following her gaze to the busy scene outside. "Not quite the quiet scientific outpost we signed up for," she observed. "No," Mara agreed, "but perhaps something more important. A beginning." "Earth is calling you back, you know," Reyes said after a moment. "The Defense Ministry wants to debrief you personally, and apparently several research divisions are fighting over who gets to develop your gravitational pulse technology further." Mara smiled slightly. "I think I'll stay here a while longer. There's still work to do." She gestured toward where Dr. Lin was coordinating with the Ardrani technicians. "Besides, I hear the next research expedition is bringing components for an improved prototype. Something about adapting Ardrani field theory to human engineering principles." Reyes nodded, understanding. "The frontiers that matter most aren't always the physical ones." Beyond the viewport, Proxima's rusty light cast long shadows across the outpost as another day on humanity's first exoplanet colony drew to a close. In the distance, the solar arrays gleamed, freshly cleared of dust by the maintenance drones, collecting energy to power the lights that would soon illuminate the continuing work of exploration and discovery. The battle for Proxima B had been won not through overwhelming force or advanced technology, but through the uniquely human qualities of adaptability, creativity, and determination. One outpost, one stand, one moment of defiance had transformed humanity's place in the interstellar community, opening doors to possibilities that had once seemed centuries away. And it had all begun with a single human who refused to accept defeat, who found opportunity in chaos, and who proved that even the most overwhelming odds could be overcome with ingenuity and courage.